Hello and welcome to What's the Story? We're an inquisitive bunch of hosts from the What's the Story team on a mission to uncover stories about faith and courage from everyday people. And to help us do just that, we get the privilege to chat with amazing guests and delve into their faith journey, the hurdles they've overcome, and the life lessons they have learned along the way. Now, if you enjoy our podcast, don't forget to subscribe and sign up for our newsletter on our website, which is what'sthestorypodcast.com. It's your direct line to the latest episodes and detailed show notes, and they all get delivered straight to your inbox. And the best part, it's absolutely free. What's the Story is brought to you by Crowd Church. We understand that stepping into a traditional church might not be everybody's cup of tea. And that's where Crowd Church steps in, providing a digital sanctuary, a safe space to explore the Christian faith where you can engage in meaningful conversations rather than just simply spectating. So whether you are new to the Christian faith or are in search of a new church family, we invite you to visit us at www.crowd.church. And if you've got any questions, just drop us an email at hello@crowd.church. We're here to help and would genuinely love to connect with you. And now, without further ado, let's meet your host and our very special guest for today.
Hi, and welcome back to What's the Story podcast. I'm your host, Suther Fainin, and today we have a very special guest, Benjie Craig, a husband, dad, church leader, and business owner whose story we're going to get into today. Benjie, thanks for taking the time to be here with us, and a huge welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So actually, I should say this. Benjie and I know each other from our high school days. And so this is quite fun, reconnecting after all these years.
Yeah, it's crazy to be able to say we met like a quarter century ago. That's
okay, wow.
weird.
Yes, that is. All right. Well, you know what? Let's just jump in, and I'm sure that story's all going to unfold, isn't it? About your high
Yeah.
school days and also. All right. So Benjie, you have a fascinating story. And so I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's just start with you telling us a bit about your background and how you came to know Jesus as your personal savior.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Switzerland, and from there we moved to Pakistan when I was 13 months old, where my parents worked with Afghan refugees. So I grew up in Pakistan and then ended up going to boarding school, which is where I met you. And then from there, moved to the States for college and have been in the States ever since. But growing up in my family came from a Christian background, and so early on I was taught about Jesus, and really I would say it was my senior year of high school that was where I felt growing up around a bunch of people who were just doing amazing things for God. I'm going like, well, okay, maybe when I grow up, like God's going to use me and He'll have a use for me and stuff like that. And then really my senior year was where I realized like, okay, God wants a relationship with me. It's not just like He can use me for things. And so that's where I really started leaning in. And then I got baptized when I was 18 in Pakistan, and then moved to the States. So that's early on how I came to know Jesus, and then it's been a real faith journey ever since of just following God. One of the things I thought growing up and early on was that I'd be working overseas, just doing development work or something like that, and one of the biggest fears that I had was raising support. And but then kind of going through things, I ended up starting a business. And the thing about starting a business is you're pretty much raising support every day, right? You're selling, you're trying to bring work in. And so it's been a thing of like really learning how to trust God every day. and seeing how he provides. And early on in the business, it was one of these things where, the one week I'd be like really stressed out because I'm like, I don't have enough work for the guys. And then the next week I'd be so stressed out because I'm like, I've got too much work. I don't have enough guys to do this. And I was just watching this going like this is not going to be healthy for me. And I had to go, okay, God, I'm going to give the pieces I can't control to you.
Mm.
Um, and it's been quite a journey. Just continually going like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you with these pieces. There's
Mm.
pieces that I can do and I need to do, but ultimately you're the one who provides.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. So I want to take what you were saying earlier about high school and you got baptized.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you were talking about how you came to the realization that God actually wanted a relationship with you. He didn't just want to use you one day when you were old enough to go do something for his kingdom.
Yeah.
From the way you were talking, I'm thinking more like a missionary capacity, like maybe your parents were. Is that right?
Yeah. So my parents were Christian relief and development workers,
Mm-hmm.
working with Afghan refugees. So
Mm-hmm.
there was um, there's like 3 million Afghan refugees that moved into Pakistan when the Russians invaded.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were doing a lot of community development work there. And then later on, they moved into Afghanistan and were doing work there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of growing up, I saw myself doing something in Afghanistan as well.
Mm.
Just helping do things there. So that's kind of the picture that I had for myself at that
Mm.
point.
Mm. And raising support, the part that freaked you out was that having watched your parents and other missionaries have to go through that.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't necessarily something that I ever saw my parents stressed out about with or stuff
Mm.
like that, but I just
Mm.
remember coming back to the States and going from, you know, uh, multiple churches every week and talking, sharing about what was happening and raising funds and stuff like
Mm.
that. And it's just, that was one of the things that stuck out to me. Like, I really enjoyed hanging out at the different places and stuff like that,
Mm.
but it just, that I guess there was
Mm.
that trust piece that I had
Mm.
to give up. It's like I wanted control of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's something that um, even today we're at a place right now where things are pretty slow.
Mm.
And I even ended up going on vacation while things were pretty slow, and it was one of those things where I just had to be like, okay, God, I'm going to do the pieces that I feel are next of what I
Mm.
have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm going to trust you for the provisions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. And like you were saying, it's that piece about learning to trust the Lord and let Him take the control. That's kind of a thread, then, isn't it? That
Yeah.
gets weaved in and out of your life. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
great. I want to again actually take you back to what you were saying about being in high school and being baptized. Did you face any particular challenges that kind of led you to lean further into the Lord and into your faith? That led you to then maybe take the step of being baptized?
Yeah. So my junior year of high school, which would be 11th grade,
Okay.
I was I got a call one day. This was our school ended early July and started like beginning of
Mm-hmm.
August. And in May, so it's kind of like getting close to the end of the school year, I get a call from my mom. We're in a boarding school, and so she calls me and says, "Hey, I need you to come home for the weekend and pack up all your stuff." And I'm like, "What's going on?" And she says, "Well, we're shipping a bunch of stuff back to the States because our visas did not get renewed, and we don't know if we're going to be able to be back here next year or not."
Mm-hmm.
And so that was quite a shock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I flew back and packed up all my stuff at home, all of the things that I felt were, that I wanted to keep and ship back to the States. And um, so we did that, and then wrapped up my 11th grade, and we went to Switzerland for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. And there's like 3 or 4 weeks there where I didn't know if I was going back to finish my senior year with all my friends in high school in Pakistan, or if we were moving to the States and completely starting over.
Mm.
Um, and I remember there was one song by Petra called No Doubt, and I just play that over and
Mm.
over and over again. And there's a part that basically says something along the lines of no doubt everything's going to work out. God's going to bring everything together for good, right?
Mm.
And I just keep listening to that song, reminding myself of like, okay, God's going to make this work out, whichever way it goes. I really wanted to finish out my time in Pakistan at high school with all my friends and stuff like that.
Mm.
And then I think it was like 2 days after school started. So school had actually started. I'm just sitting there like, I'm missing it.
Mm.
This isn't going to work out. Then we got a notification from the Pakistani embassy in Switzerland that they had our
Mm.
visas. So went there, got them, and I was on the next plane to Pakistan, and it was just so amazing to go
Mm.
back. My parents came like a week later with my sister.
Mm.
Um, but that was a real challenge early on.
Mm.
And then just seeing how God worked that through. So my sister and I got 1 year student visas, and then
Mm.
they gave my mom a 1 year visa to be with us because they're like, we can't just have two minors in the country by
Yeah.
themselves. And then
Mm.
my dad was able to use tourist visas and stuff to come visit and stuff like
Mm.
that. So
Wow. So, I mean, great that it all ended so well for you, for all of you. But what was it like receiving that call? I mean, I'd imagine it'd be terrifying. But how did you feel? How did that affect you?
I was just so excited.
Sorry.
It
Sorry.
Oh, the call.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The
I
first
was
call. The
not
first
very
call.
excited. The first call. Yes, yes. Um, yeah, it was kind of weird because I really didn't have um much time to talk to my friends about what was happening, and
Mm.
I kind of had to leave and go back. Um, and so um, I really didn't have anyone there to process with and talk it through. And then
Mm.
I came back and everybody was kind of like, yeah, where'd you go? Um, and so, yeah, so it was just a shock because that,
Mm.
you know, I just kind of knew I was going to be there for my senior year, finishing
Mm.
out the year. And it's kind of, the academic stuff is wrapping up and you're just kind of having some fun for the end of year stuff and your friends are graduating. Um, so it was
Mm.
quite a shock.
I can imagine. And that senior year is always the one you're looking forward to that whole time, aren't you? To be able to get to and
Yeah.
experience it. So yeah. And I'm glad that you were able to make it back and be able to finish in Pakistan like you wanted. Benji, you'd been mentioning earlier about your business and how the Lord was even, part of that journey for you as well. Like depending on Him for the work, depending on Him for the workers, and um, the fact that you had to trust in Him daily. And so it's very clear that your personal faith actually extends to your workplace as well, and in fact, in every aspect of your life. So, could you share with us how your faith has influenced your approach to the way you do business?
Yeah. Well, I think um, I was working in a company before that. Kind of everything was very reactive in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was like a lot of emergencies, and we were like fighting our own fires and customers' fires, and I just felt like I think it could be different, and I didn't have the opportunities to be able to change some things in that business. So I decided, okay, I'm going to start out and uh, try business for myself, and
Mm-hmm.
what I think the way I think business works. Does it work in can we get it going? And so um, I think a lot of how we run the business. we try to be as proactive as we can, where we're trying to build our systems and everything so that um, we're working on our customers' fires, not our own fires and things
Mm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, how does my faith play into this? It's a lot of how we treat people,
Mm.
right? How we care and love for them. They're not just a number, whether they're the customer or the employee. Like our mission is we build lasting relationships.
Mm.
Um, and our vision is that cities and people are empowered. So a lot of the people that we bring in here, we're training and developing all the way through, and um, building relationships with them about what's going on in their personal lives. Right, like
Mm-hmm.
it's relationship, and we care and love for the people. And so through that, it's provided a lot of opportunities to really come alongside our staff, and then also our customers and what they're going through, and then building those relationships, um, you know, in the long term helps continue our business, because those relationships provide more work over time, and
Mm-hmm.
I think relationship is so important, right?
Yeah.
And then um, what happens is, as you get to know people, you start out with superficial conversation, and then over time it goes to meaningful, and then there's times where it goes to spiritual, and you're able to have spiritual conversations with
Mm-hmm.
people, just about what's going through their lives, or being able to pray for them for um, challenges that they're having, or caring for them. Like um, I've got um, I've got one friend who's working with me now, and he had to fly to another country to be with his family for a little bit, and
Mm.
he's basically um, like, I'll still have my job when I get back, right? I'm like, yeah, totally, of course.
Mm.
Like, you're part of the team. Um, and one thing that was really neat was um he was trying to get everything to coordinate to go back, and one of my other coworkers in the business, we've been talking to him about Jesus, and he's been slowly getting to know Jesus a little bit. And then he actually ended praying for my friend that everything would work out
Mm.
for this trip. And the next day, my other friend got the news that he was able to, like, things were going to move forward so that he'd be able to go on this trip. So it was
Mm.
just exciting to see, one of my guys, as he's slowly moving closer to Jesus, start, you know,
Mm.
um, praying for other people on the team.
Mm.
So it's a fun journey.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
No, that's. I remember one of the things that we spoke about in the pre-call. You talked about the way you run your business. You want to make sure that you're not the bottleneck for when it comes to all the processes and stuff. So what led to that decision making?
Yeah. Well, I mean, um, I, l- there's a couple things. First of
Mm.
all, like, if you look at Jesus,
Mm.
the way he set things up, right? Like, we are his plan A, and he has no plan B,
Mm.
right? Like, and if you look at what he did, he came and started ministering and loving people, and then he had some people that were with him and trained them up a little bit, and then he sent them out two by two,
Mm.
right? And then he brought them back and kind of like, so how'd it go? And then coached them a little bit and kept
Mm.
sending them on. And so I'd been taught that for a long time growing up, and as I was building my business, I saw that um I just saw I saw where everything was was bottlenecking with me.
Mm.
Like, I was everything was slowing down with me. I was like, okay, so I need to build a business um that I'm empowering people, empowering everybody to do what they need to do, and continuing to
Mm.
give responsibility, right? And um And so, I mean, a lot of my company um, runs without me, so to speak, that like I don't have to, I'm not part of the
Mm.
process, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
my favorite thing is to be coming alongside them and going like, how's it going and how can I help? Right?
Mm.
Like how are the ways that I can help you going forward? Um, so when I was baptized,
Mm-hmm.
there's somebody who prayed over me and said, Benji, you need to be like a person in a marketplace who is always busy but can make time for anybody, right? To sit and talk and stuff like that. And so part of the way I've set up my business as well is so that I'm available to be spend time with people and to um, connect and listen. And so, I try to structure my work so that
Mm.
I can move things around for people and be able to spend time. And I just think it's so important to, as you're in a community, to be able to be available for everybody
Mm.
around so that you can love the community that you're in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very cool. And it's quite actually your approach. Like you said that that's what Jesus did. That's what he taught. And yet, listening to you say it and thinking about it playing out, it seems quite innovative. It seems quite different, such a different approach to how people would normally run their businesses. That's just not usually how it's done. And your approach is also quite insightful, I think, empowering others and wanting to come alongside rather than kind of feeling like that you're the one who has to do everything and make it all happen. So, no, I love that. And also what you I don't know who it was that said these words to you, but to stay busy, but also be always ready to listen and to talk and to come alongside others. That's very cool. I like that. So Benji, you mentioned community and that you're quite active in yours. I want to know more about that. So I know you're also involved in your church and in different parts of leadership. So talk to us about that. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so actually right around the time that I right around the time that I started my business, I was asked at my church to become an elder. So
Mm-hmm.
I was an elder for about 10 years and was involved in kind of helping the church shift, right? We
Mm.
were a very attractional church at the time, and we decided to shift a little bit and become more of a missional church
Mm.
and spending less time focusing on Sundays and more time throughout the week
Mm-hmm.
involved out in the community. And part of that shift for me as well, um growing up overseas, I came here and went to this church. It was a pretty large church at the time, and I really got involved in the church pretty much every day of the week doing
Mm.
something. I met my wife at the church. Our kids went to the school at the church. And there was a point where I was kind of like, I'm a pretty bright light inside of building, right? Like
Mm.
I don't have any non-Christian friends. Like
Mm.
something doesn't feel right. Um, and it was a process of learning and really shifting and then moving to how do I be out in the community? How do I care and love for the community around me? Like I didn't even really know my neighbors that well,
Mm.
right? Like um and so there's a process of change where our kids, the school that my kids were going to ended up closing down, and then we were able to move our kids to public school. And then it's been a lot of really leaning into hanging out in the community that our kids are in.
Mm.
um, I've also gotten involved in the Economic Development Commission with the city of Fremont.
Okay.
Fremont's the town we live in. And then I'm now on the Human Relations Commission, and also a Facilities Advisory Commission for the school district. So
Wow.
really getting involved uh, on the city level as well, but
Mm.
just in the community. My Jessica, my wife, spends a lot of time involved at community at the schools, right? And
Mm.
how um, just be involved and support the schools and where our kids are. So um, I volunteer at at the events themselves, but
Mm.
she's involved at the PTO board level, which is parent teacher organization and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that's really where she's built a lot of her friends now.
Mm. Wow, you sound very, very busy.
It can be busy, but
Mm.
it's a lot of fun, right?
Mm.
Like, and it's a way I get to connect and meet new parts of the community
Mm.
that I don't know, and really engage.
Yeah. So I guess what is it about your faith that's driven you to engage with your community at that level?
So I really think that you need to love where you live, right?
Mm-hmm.
And bless the people around you. And we are blessed to be a blessing to others, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Genesis 12. And so that means, like, I can say, "Oh, I love where I live because all of these amazing amenities or whatever." Or you can say, "I love where I live," where it's like you're loving where you live, you're
Mm,
pouring your
yeah.
heart into where you live, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
you're you're trying to make a difference where you can. Um and so, really looking around and go, like, what does good news look like to the people around us, and how can I be involved
Mm-hmm.
in that?
Mm-hmm.
Is really where what I'm trying to do, and just be a blessing to the people around us. And part of that looks like, there's a bunch of kids that need rides to go to youth group, right? So I'm driving him to youth group.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another family that they need community, and so how do we connect them to community, and um, just be involved in their lives that way? And yeah, I look at Jesus, and when he was walking around, what did good news look like to the people around him? There was somebody who was blind, so the first thing was they needed to be able to see, and they or they're crippled, needed to be
Mm-hmm.
healed, and then that opened the door for them to listen. But
Mm-hmm.
so how do we become fascinated by the people around us,
Mm-hmm.
and learn about them, and love them and care for them?
Mm-hmm. I love what you're saying because it depicts the fact that you have to walk alongside people to know what the good news looks like for them. You can't, be removed and kind of just assume that this is what they need.
It's
Yeah.
it's very easy to try to create a program and try to push
Mm,
something, right? And hey, you need to hear this or whatever. But um, I think relationship is so important, right? Because that's how trust builds,
mm-hmm.
and then conversation can happen, right?
Yeah.
And it's opportunity to love them, and
Mm-hmm.
this generation is the most marketed to generation ever, so they can sniff a program out of everything, right?
Mm,
And so, but I mean, what is everybody longing for now? It's community, engagement, love, right? Like,
mm,
let's lean into that.
mm,
I think so much. I think what Jesus said when he left was, "Go and make disciples." And so, how do you make disciples? How did Jesus make disciples?
mm,
He hung out with people. He spent time with his disciples that he was
mm,
making, right? He spent 3 years with them. And so, for us to make disciples, it's spending time with people, living life with them. And what that also means is, the way I make a disciple is different than you do, because we're
mm-hmm.
different people, right? And
Mm,
and something that I really connected with from one of my mentors, he said, "If Jesus were you, what would it look like? And then how can you become more like that?" Right? And that helps me
mm,
get a better picture of, how do I need to grow? What do I need to become? Right? Because if we just think of, like, oh, how do I become more like Jesus? Well, like, I can see things in the Bible, but what exactly was this personality like? I don't know.
mm,
Like, and we're not all trying to become the same person, but
mm,
Jesus gave us all different personalities, and how do we become more like him, right? And
mm,
so, how we engage the people around us in community is going to be different, but we're all we're all discipling people.
Mm.
And I think that's so important. So for my wife, who's an introvert, and me, who I'm an extrovert, it
Mm.
looks completely different,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Um, and I just think that's beautiful that we're Jesus has invited us to be part of something that
Mm.
we can grow really into who we are as people, right?
Mm.
And it's not we have to conform to like one certain way of doing things.
Mm. That's really cool. What was it your mentor said to you? Can you repeat that? If Jesus was,
Yeah, if Jesus was you,
mm,
what would it look like, and how can you become more like that?
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those things, isn't it? Like for you to pursue those things and to want to emulate Jesus in your community, but also in the way that in like in how God's created you. And if you do it through that, then you flourish rather than trying to be the next person and trying to make it work because it worked for them.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
like for me, some of the challenges that I run into sometimes is, I go, why am I not like that other person, right?
Mm.
Like, why am I not as academic as somebody else? Or,
Mm.
why don't I have the specific drive that I try to push things a certain way or something
Mm.
like that? And, why am I not like other people in the Bay Area, right? Or so,
Yeah.
some just,
Yeah.
you compare yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then, um, and then you have to keep, okay, like God created me different, right?
Mm.
We're all different.
Mm.
We're not all trying to become the same thing, and
Yeah.
living out who we've been created to be, right? Because
Mm.
each of us are a beautiful masterpiece, right, that God's
Mm.
created. And then um how do we live into that of what, and um it's work to continue growing as a person, and then
Mm.
also not trying to become who God didn't create you to be, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody else's journey.
Yeah.
Um so I think as we live out who God has made us to be, and
Mm.
how do we become aware of what God is doing in our communities? How do we come alongside the people? And so some of the things that we've started talking and really implementing at our church is really encouraging people to go on prayer walks. Like,
Mm.
g- go on walks around your community and pray a blessing on the community,
Mm.
and ask God, where is he already working? And how can you join him there? Um, and uh, through that, maybe you'll see like who is out and about, and who isn't out and about, and like what are the needs of the community, what's missing. um and as I'm doing my prayer walks, I do them first thing in the morning, and there's a certain group of people who are also walking in the
Mm.
morning, and I'm able to have conversations with them, get to know
Mm.
them. And we actually 2 days ago, I ran into one couple who lives down the street that I've slowly been getting to know, and I got to bring them into our house and show them the remodel that we're
Nice.
doing because they want to do some stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
it's building conversation there, right? So
Mm.
it starts with surface level conversations like, oh, hey, that's a cool dog or whatever,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it starts going into meaningful conversations.
Mm.
But then there's opportunities that they become spiritual conversations,
Yeah.
and opportunities to be able to pray for
Mm.
somebody,
Mm.
right? And I think for me, early on, praying for somebody was kind of like a big deal. I'm like, I don't really know if I want to pray for somebody because, like, what if God doesn't answer the way I pray or something like
Mm.
that? And
Mm.
uh s- you know someone was another one of my mentors said, or taught me. He said, well, if somebody's going through a hard time, why don't you say, I like, let's just say somebody's grandma's not doing well. It's like, well, do you mind if I pray for you for that? Because, I think it hurts Jesus too that your grandma's
Mm.
sick, right? So, typically you know, well, I'll say typically, but a lot of time it's like, oh, I'll
Mm.
pray for you, right? And that's maybe you'll pray for them later. I mean, let, but it's kind of like a top-down approach, right?
Mm.
Like, I will pray for you versus can I pray for you is more like, you're asking permission,
Mm.
right? And I've never had anybody say no. I had one person kind of go, well, it's not really my thing, um, but if it makes you feel good, sure, go ahead.
Mm.
And so then at that point, praying for that person right there with them, and uh, and then the two things that I kind of include in my prayers is I want to make sure, I'll say like, God, I know you love this person. I want to just
Mm.
say it as a statement so they know
Mm.
that, they hear that, and then pray that they have peace.
Mm.
Um, and then pray for whatever else is going on. And um, what happens is like the next time I see the person, I can ask them, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? And it kind of opens a spiritual door. But
Mhm.
ultimately, however God decides to answer that prayer,
Mm.
that person knows that they're loved, right? Like you're caring and loving for that person. Um, and I think that's so important. And I was just reading a book where I haven't really practiced this, but I've been kind of processing through where they talked about like giving blessings.
Mm.
Instead of going, can I pray for you? Going like, can I give you a blessing? Right. And the picture that they gave was if um like in praying you kind of turn away from the person and look at God, but in giving a blessing you're kind of looking at the person with God behind you and blessing
Mm.
them. So it's something that I've been chewing on. I just read it in a book and I've just gone like, oh, like haven't had the opportunity to do it, but just
Yeah.
something
Process
that I
it.
thought
Yeah.
was a neat
Mm.
thing. Yeah.
Mhm. Thanks for that, Benji. I mean, I'm guessing many of our listeners are maybe sometimes struggling to bring their faith into their daily life or their professional life. I mean, you've given a lot of insight there, but is there any other particular advice you would give them?
Um, I think part of it is uh, being willing to step out of your comfort zone a little bit,
Mm.
right? And noticing like being fascinated by the people around you, where you're seeing where what does good news look like to them, and
Mm.
how can you um, how can you build relationship and be there for people, right? And relationship is two ways. I think there's a lot of times where it's like, oh, I have to um like I have to serve the other people, blah 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 blah. But no, it's a two-way street. Like
Mm.
if we look at in the Bible, when Jesus sent the disciples out two by two, he said, go look for people of peace, right?
Mm.
And if there's a person of peace there, declare peace on the space. I think it's Luke 10.
Yeah.
And um if we look at many of the stories of the Bible, the person that they were connecting with also served them. Like
Mm.
Jesus and the woman of the well, she gave him water,
Mm.
right? Uh, Paul and Lydia, she's like, you have to stay at my house.
Mm.
The jailer, when Paul was beaten, right? Like he's being stitched up by
Mm.
them while he's sharing the gospel, right? And so um, that just kind of builds that picture of its relationship. It's a two-way street, not
Mm-hmm.
I have to do everything, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, I think it's being willing to step out a little bit, but in other ways, it's a lot easier than we make it out to be.
Mm. Yeah. You're right. Um, Benji, it's been truly fascinating hearing how you've navigated the complexities of faith and leadership, and yeah, it's been really really good to hear you talk about these things. What's your one message that you would want to leave with our listeners today?
Yeah, I think love where you live,
Mm.
right? Like love the people, love the place,
Mm.
and see uh, see how you can be a part of it, right? And step out. I'm just gonna one thing that just came to mind was there's this book called The Art of Neighboring, and they
Mm-hmm.
go, make a little tic-tac-toe board and then put you in the middle and then go like, okay, all the neighbors around you, like how
Mm-hmm.
can you get to know their names, get to know their
Mm-hmm.
families, and start praying for them, and so just to kind of um yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, love where you live. It's such a powerful message. It really resonates, especially in our fast-paced world where it's so easy to overlook the community that surrounds us. And I also liked earlier how you made that distinction between loving where you live, as in, but as in I love everything about it, but this is different. This is the relationship side. This is the part where you do the hard work. And having listened to your story, it's so clear that you're making a tangible impact right where you have been placed, you and your family. And your proactive approach to faith and life is something that many of us can learn from. So thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your story, for your insights. It's been inspiring to learn about the powerful ways that you are connecting your Christian faith with your work and your community.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was awesome.
Thank you to you. The pleasure's ours. If you're listening to the show and want to reach out to Benjie, you can do that by just heading over to the show notes for more information. And so this is it for this episode. Bye from me and from Benjie. Until next time.
And just like that, we have reached the end of another fascinating conversation. Now remember to check out Crowd Church at www.crowd.church, even if you might not see the point of church. You see, we are a digital church on a quest to discover how Jesus can help us live a more meaningful life. We are a community, a space to explore the Christian faith, and a place where you can contribute and grow. And you are welcome at Crowd Church. Don't forget to subscribe to the What's the Story podcast on your favorite podcast app, because we've got a treasure trove of inspiring stories coming your way, and we will basically hate for you to miss any of them. And just in case no one has told you yet today, remember, you are awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just a burden. What's the Story is a production of Crowd Church. Our fantastic team, including Anna Kettle, Salaf Bainon, and me, Matt Edmondson, and Tanya Hutzelak, work behind the scenes tirelessly to bring you all these fabulous stories. Our theme song is a creative work of Josh Edmondson. And if you're interested in the transcript or show notes, head over to our website, whatsthestorypodcast.com. And whilst you're there, sign up for our free weekly newsletter to get all of this goodness delivered straight to your inbox. So that's it from all of us this week here at What's the Story. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week wherever you are in the world. We'll catch you next time. Bye for now.